Hello there, thanks for joining me. It's been about a week since my last post, and during that time I've had a few questions coming in about how I got into television. So I'll go back a little bit further because I've got a few minutes with you, and I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So as a youngster, as many kids do, I was in school plays, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I had no idea that I would, but it was great, and I enjoyed making an audience laugh and entertaining them. So the drama teacher I had at the time encouraged me to join the National Youth Theatre, which I did, and I did that for a couple of years. I was lucky enough to be in shows in London, then I travelled Europe, and then when I came back, did some shows in London, and I decided that that was the career for me. So I started applying for drama schools when I was about 18 years of age, and I remember going to Bristol Old Vic, the Bristol Old Vic, and at the Bristol Old Vic, on the panel of judges, you audition for them and they decide if they're going to let you in or not. A very well-known actor, probably more for movies than television, was Denham Elliott, no longer with us, unfortunately. And he was interested in why I'd chosen the pieces of drama that I was doing. The characters that I played were in their 50s and 60s. So instead of playing like Hamlet, who might be a young man of my age, I played people that I couldn't possibly be. And he wanted to know why I chose those characters. And I said I wanted to be a character actor. I didn't want to just play me. I didn't want to just play young men. I wanted to really stretch myself and play interesting characters, parts that, people that I would never normally be in my own lifetime. And so he encouraged me to go and see the world, go and travel for a few years, find out what life is all about, and get some character before I start to play those characters. So I took that to heart, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. Then I went and travelled Europe for a couple of years, and in that time, my sister, who trained as a dancer, she ended up working on cruise ships. And she very kindly got me either a cheap ticket or a free ticket, and you had to stay in a staff cabin, but hey, I didn't care. I got to go to the Caribbean at a very, very affordable rate, and I got to go and find out what life was like in the Caribbean. Oh my goodness, it blew my socks off. If you've never been to the Caribbean, try and go. It's amazing. I would love to live out there. I would love it. And if you don't know about cruising, maybe watch ID World. Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, Planet Cruise is there, and they do some great deals. You can find out what cruising is all about. So I enjoyed it so much that when I got back to the UK, I decided that I wanted to work on cruise ships. That was for me. And of course, everyone's like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Well, I've never been one to care about how I'm going to do it. I just get on with it. So I decided I'd start auditioning for cruise lines, and it became very apparent very quickly that you needed some particular skill, a particular area you're going to work on. So I decided that I could be kind of like a red coat or a blue coat, go to butlins and pontins, but do that on the cruise ships, and they call that being a crew staff member. So I auditioned as a mime artist. I was doing the old Marcel Marceau, the old Michael Jackson robotics, and lo and behold, within a few weeks, I got offered a job. Nobody could believe it. They're like, how did you pull that off? But I did. And so within a few weeks, in fact, it was July the 4th of 1986, I flew to Miami. And I was joining Costa Cruise Lines, which at the time I didn't know them. Today they're a huge cruise line, Italian cruise line, 20 ships or more. You might remember them for the one that hit the rocks and fell over onto one side. So I flew out there, and I remember, this is more than 35 years ago, being in the taxi, driving to the hotel, all paid for by the cruise line, and it was so hot that I lowered the windows in the taxi, and the taxi driver was all upset. Why are you doing that? We've got air conditioning. And I didn't even know you could get air conditioning in a car at that time. And then when I was at the hotel, I remember just being in the pool. It was 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and just laying there thinking, oh my goodness, I have arrived. This is it. My life is made. And actually, it really was, because I spent the next 18 years on and off the cruise ships. And I joined just originally as a mime artist. I soon became DJ. The cruise director asked if I'd like to do more activities to earn more money. Of course I did. I worked as hard as I could to make all the money I could. And within 2 years, I became the cruise director. And that, again, was life-changing. And then every few years, I'd become a little bit bored. I wanted to stretch myself, so I changed cruise line. I was lucky enough to have a year living in Mexico. That was epic. I'll tell you about that another time. I was lucky enough to have 4 years living in Los Angeles, trying to make into the movies, and I was in 6 films. And then I was lucky enough to live in Romania for a year, another epic year. And then eventually I came back to the cruise ships, And I just kept trying to get off, trying to find other things, more adventure. What can I do with my life? And believe me, I had some ups and I had some downs. I made a ton of money and I lost all my money. In fact, I was broke 3 times. But hey, it's only money, right? So eventually, I fell in love with Helen, who I'm married to today, and we were on the Sea Wing. What's the name of that? Air Tours. It was Air Tours. Sea Wing from Air Tours. It was brilliant. Really, absolutely loved it. And we at the time were travelling out to Thailand or so and so. And while I was out there, I got a phone call asking if I'd like to go and be on the Queen Mary 2, which was the biggest cruise ship in the world at the time. Hey, of course I want to do that. So Cunard Cruises flew me from Thailand out to Miami, and I got to meet with them and audition for it and see if I could be on the cruise ship. And there were 6 cruise directors that they had organised, and ultimately they decided that I was the youngest one. I was probably too young to be on that cruise ship. I was gutted. But then they called up maybe a week or so later and said, would you do the QE2, the original QE2? I'm like, yeah, man, that'd be brilliant. I'd love to do it. So a few months later, I joined the QE2. Within a few weeks, I realised I had to change my style. So I've been working for the American cruises for many, many years, and they like a lot of high energy. And fortunately, the Air Tours was Brits, and they have a very different style of what they like. So I'd already found what it was like to work with Brits and Americans. But the Cunard ship was, again, very different. So what I found was, by night, I had to be James Bond, but by day, I could be Austin Powers. And that seemed to be the perfect combination. So lots of fun during the day, but in the evening, when people put their tuxedos on and get dressed up and got their champagne or Irish coffees in their hand, they didn't want you to be so funny. They wanted to enjoy entertainment of a much higher caliber. So I changed my styling. And it became a big success, and within 2 contracts we had the ship up and running. It was going great. At that point I decided that we wanted to get married. Now I knew from previous experience that being married and having your family on land isn't necessarily a good thing to do. So I explained to Helen that if we're going to do this, we have to be on land. And so again we gave up the ships, and this time I gave myself a year to find myself a job that I would love. And I knew that if I didn't find a job I loved, the chances were I'm going to go back to the job with good money, right? So I thought, I've got a year, I'm going to break into TV. Easier said than done. I started auditioning, and I got very lucky because I did. Now, I say very lucky. I've got to admit to you right now, I'm not a fan of luck. A lot of people say, oh, you're so lucky, you're so lucky, you're so lucky. No, I came up with a plan, and I followed it, I pursued it, and nothing got in my way. And that's very, very important. It doesn't matter if you come up against a brick wall, there's a way over it or a way under it or a way around it. I really do believe that. So I'm not a big fan of luck. But I got to go and work on, what's it called, Sky Travel. And I was their cruise expert, and that was fun. I got to do a couple of adverts, so that brought in a little bit of money, and we kept going. But as the months went by, it got scarier and scarier and scarier, and I started mounting up some debt. And then what happened? Oh, I remember. As about 9 months in, maybe about 8 months in, I started getting panicky, thinking, oh my goodness, we're running out of time here. So I got my remote control and I started flicking through the channels to look what other TV was. Because everyone I went up against in my auditions, everyone I tried to compete with for game shows, TV shows, well, I've been on cruise ships for 18 years. They'd been experienced in television for 18 years. And some of the names, if I was to name drop, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know them, oh yeah, I know them, oh yeah, I know them. And so I was up against people with lots of experience, and I had no experience of TV. So I started flicking through the channels to see what else there was available. And at that time, Freeview was out, and there was a little box, a Nokia, I think it was, a Nokia box, making my way through the channels, got up to the 80s, and found Shopping Telly. And I watched that, and at the time, Bid TV was around, and I watched Peter Simon and Mike Mason. And I was like, these guys, yeah, they look like having a really good time. I could copy that. I could simulate that. I could learn that very quickly. And so I practiced in my bedroom. And in fact, the video clip somewhere on YouTube from that original video clip where I sent in to Bid TV and got the job, that is floating around somewhere. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll hook a link up to it. But I taught myself how to sell Egyptian cotton towels and stainless steel pans or copper bottom pans, something like that. And it was really fun. Anyway, I got the job. Woohoo! woo. And it wasn't paying very well at the time. It was all right money. In fact, some people would be like, that's good money. It was more than average. So it was a good start. And I had to sell my house in Kent because I'd built up so much debt. I moved into a one-bedroom flat in London, which I could only... In fact, for the first year, I rented. I didn't even buy a flat. I had to rent. And then I had to save all the money I had, put that together with the money I'd got left from the house, and we started life again. So we ended up buying a one-bedroom flat. And then after that, we bought a 3-bedroom house in London, and we started to grow, started to get on our feet. And within a few years, I became head of channel at Bid TV. And then they started to change the format. They decided to go to fixed, stop the fall in prices, and went fixed price. So I thought, I'm getting out of here. And then I decided to go freelance and move into other worlds. And a big thing for me was back in 2010, before I left Bid TV, I'd found a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles, and it talked about double your income, double your time off. I thought, oh man, I've got to do this. So I did that, and within 2 years I was able to achieve it. I was able to double my income and double my time off. So I thought, this is what I want to teach, because I've been into personal development for about 30 years. It's always been my passion. I love it. Because ultimately, listen, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, whether you're a plumber, a carpenter, a TV presenter, a cruise director, a dancer, a painter, a dustman. It doesn't matter. If you can find happiness, if you can improve yourself and be the best version of you, then you win. I really do believe that. And so that's what I help people to do. And so what seems like I've been lucky throughout the years isn't luck. That's been the personal development shining through. That's me having the grit to make it happen. So even when times were hard, and I've had some dark times, I'll share those with you as well. I'm not all about, oh, life's great, life's great, life's great. I've had some bad times. I'm talking bad times, some really dark times. And that's what life's all about. Fight your way through it and just keep coming out the other side, and just be your best version of you. So that's kind of how I got into TV. It was really a tough year. And in fact, I almost didn't make it. I remember now that it was about 9 months in when I started to practice in my bedroom. I sent the tape in, and when I got the job, I didn't actually get offered the job. I was told, you got to wait 2 weeks, and we'll let you know in 2 weeks. And I was like, but I can't do that. I need to find out, because I was so nervous that I'd already decided that there was a very good chance at this point I might be going back to the cruise ships. And it's not what I wanted to happen, but there was a very good chance that I might be going back to the cruise ships. And Royal Caribbean had already reached out and said, as you've been on the biggest cruise ship in the world, we're about to bring out one that's even bigger. Would you consider doing that? So I told Bid TV, I told them, listen, if you don't give me the job today, then I'm going to have to fly to Miami, audition for the cruise line, just in case you don't give me the job. And they said to me, yeah, do it. So I did. I flew to Miami. I auditioned for Royal Caribbean. It was about a 6-hour audition. I had to do welcome aboard speech, the disembarkation speech. I had to do some of my entertainment. And by that point, I was doing Chinese magic as a comedy character called One Hung Lo. I think you'll find that on YouTube as well. I had to sing some of the songs that I do. I love playing Fagin. If anyone can get me into Oliver in London, I would love to do that even today. What else did I do? It was loads of stuff, but 6 hours. And then eventually that night they took me out for dinner, said, as you've flown over from the UK and you're here, well, let's go out for dinner. So while we went out for dinner, chatting away, and they kept talking about when you join the ship, when you join the ship, when you join the ship. And I said, you told me in the audition that you couldn't tell me for a few days yet because you had other people. I'm a bit confused. You keep telling me when I join the ship. And they said, hey, listen, you had us within the first hour. You got it. Do you want to join? So I had to tell a fib. I had to play my cards right, because in my heart of hearts, even though it was less money, I needed the TV gig because I wanted to get married to Helen and start a family and enjoy this new chapter of my life. And so I told them I had a TV job already. I had to finish it. I needed 6 or 7 weeks to do that. Then I could join the ship. And so they agreed to that. And then I went back to the UK. And I remember I was in Birmingham. I was visiting Helen's parents. And I was in a library in Castle Bromwich. There's a little library there. And I was in there and I got the phone call saying, you got it. I went outside. Woohoo! Oh man, I was so excited. Even though it was way less money than going back to the cruise ships, I was so excited. And of course I took it, and I called the cruise line and said, I can't do it this time round, blah, 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 blah. So that's how I broke into TV. And it was really, really good fun. And even today, I love it. And of course, now today, not just at Ideal World, I freelance there because I do so many other things as well. And I really do coach people and help them change their lives. But also ID World now picked up ITV, so I get to be on ITV in the evenings as well, occasionally. And it's really, really good fun. If you want help getting into television, or if you want some guidance on how you might be able to get in TV, or maybe you just want to be a guest expert, if you'd like to be a watch expert or a tech expert or an expert of some nature on ID World, or even Create and Craft, which is our sister channel, then feel free to reach out to me and I'll certainly help you in any way that I can. Hey, listen, I talked way more than I thought, and I was only going to tell you a little story how I broke into TV. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's insightful. And my top tip would be, if you've got a dream, just start chasing it. Write down your goals. Where would you like to be? Let's say you want to get into TV and you have no idea how to do that. Give yourself breathing space. So maybe make that a year down the road. What are you going to do in each of those months leading up to that end goal? Are you going to reach out to various TV shows? Are you going to be a runner first? Do you just want to become a presenter? Would you like to try shopping TV to get some experience and then move into mainstream TV? There's so many different ways. So many different ways. Research other people that are broken into TV. And you'll find maybe you want to be an actor rather than a presenter, but you'll find they've all got their own journey. They've all got their own pathway. There is no right or wrong. Just get your head down and start working on it. Start working on it. If you have no TV experience, I would say get some. You can take classes. There's all sorts of things you can find on the internet. Find out what it's like to use TalkBack. Find out what it's like to be counted in. I paid for some courses in London just to make sure that when I actually went to Big TV, I had some idea how to do it, because I didn't know what it was. I wouldn't have known really what a stage manager was, a floor manager. They don't have stage managers in TV. The floor manager, I wouldn't have known about the 10-second count, the 5-second count. There's all these things you can learn. So I hope it's helpful. Look forward to it. If you've got any questions, feel free to either at the bottom of the post send me a message or email me tv.presenter@hotmail.com. Reach out. Maybe you need some advice. I'm happy to help. Or maybe it's about products that you've seen on TV. Maybe you want to know something about those. And if there's a particular story you'd like to know a little bit more about, feel free to reach out. See you soon.